Horton's world welcomes you. Beneath our world lies a silent kingdom of shadow, ruled not by a monster but by Hades, the lord of the underworld. Feared and respected, Hades presides over the realm where every soul must go, not as a villain, but as a solemn guardian of balance and duty. Tonight we journey beyond myth to meet the true lord of the underworld. For centuries, the name Hades has been synonymous with villainy. In modern stories, films and games, he is often portrayed as a fast-talking, fiery-tempered schemer, plotting to overthrow his brother Zeus and seize control of Olympus. He is presented as a devilish figure, a force of pure malevolence who delights in the suffering of others. This image, however, is a distortion, a caricature born from later traditions that conflated the Greek ruler of the dead with concepts of absolute evil from other belief systems. The true Hades of Greek mythology was a far different and more nuanced character, one whose primary concern was not conquest but order. Unlike his brother Zeus, who was infamous for his endless affairs and capricious punishments, Hades was remarkably faithful and dispassionate. He rarely left his kingdom, showing little interest in the petty squabbles and dramas of the gods on Mount Olympus or the mortals on earth below. His focus was singular and immense, to maintain the strict boundary between the living and the dead. He was a king bound by his responsibilities, a divine warden ensuring that the souls of the deceased remained in their rightful place. His rule was defined by law and fairness, not by cruelty. He did not judge the souls himself. That task fell to 3 demigod kings who were appointed for their wisdom. The ancient Greeks did not view Hades as an evil entity. They feared him certainly because he represented the certainty of death, an unavoidable and somber fate. But fear is not the same as hatred. They understood his role was essential for the balance of the universe. Without Hades to govern the underworld, chaos would erupt. The dead would wander back into the land of the living, and the fundamental cycle of life and death would collapse. He was not the god of death itself, that role belonged to Thanatos, but rather the custodian of the afterlife, the solemn and just ruler of the place where all souls eventually gathered. Therefore, to truly understand this formidable god, we must peel back the layers of modern misinterpretation. We must set aside the image of the cackling villain and look to the ancient sources for a more accurate portrait. The Hades we find there is a quiet, stern, and powerful monarch. He is a god of immense wealth, unyielding principles, and unwavering commitment to his domain. He is a figure shrouded in darkness, yes, but it is the darkness of the deep earth and the finality of fate, not the darkness of malice. He was not a monster to be slain, but a fundamental force of nature to be respected. Before the Olympians, the Titans ruled. Cronus, haunted by prophecy, swallowed each child at birth, beginning with his firstborn Hades, imprisoning them in darkness. But Rhea tricked Cronus, saving Zeus. Zeus returned, freed his siblings, including Hades, and together they prepared for war to decide the fate of the cosmos. The Titanomachy began, a brutal war between Titans and Olympians, led by Cronus and Zeus. Zeus freed the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires, gaining powerful allies and weapons. With thunderbolts, tridents, and the helm of darkness, the Olympians turned the tide. The Titans fell, imprisoned in Tartarus. The age of the Olympian gods began. After their victory, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades faced a crucial choice: how to divide the cosmos. Rather than fight, they cast lots, leaving fate to decide. The sky, sea, and underworld were at stake, each brother drawing his destiny. Zeus claimed the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld, each ruling their realm with power and purpose. The underworld was not a fiery hell, but a vast, shadowy kingdom beneath the earth, ruled by Hades. 5 great rivers divided this realm, each with its own purpose: Styx, Acheron, Cocytus, Phlegethon, and Lethe. Most souls wandered the asphodel meadows, a grey plain of endless monotony. At its heart stood Hades' palace, a seat of order and balance for the world below. A soul's journey into the underworld began at the moment of death. The god Hermes, in his role as a psychopomp, would guide the newly departed spirits from the world of the living down to the murky shores of the river Acheron or Styx. Here they would encounter the first great guardian of the realm, Charon, the ferryman of the dead. He was an ancient, grim figure depicted with a tangled beard and fiery eyes, unswayed by pleas or tears. His sole duty was to ferry souls across the dark waters into the heart of Hades' kingdom. But his service was not free, and passage was not guaranteed for everyone. To cross the river, a soul had to pay Charon's fee. This was a single coin, an obelisk, which was traditionally placed in the mouth of the deceased by their living relatives before burial. This practice highlights the immense importance the ancient Greeks placed on proper burial rites. A soul who arrived without the coin, or one whose body had been left unburied, was denied passage. They were doomed to wander the banks of the river for 100 years, trapped between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Charon was unyielding in this rule, a testament to the rigid order that governed every aspect of the underworld. Once across the river, the soul faced the next great obstacle, the gates of the underworld. These gates were guarded by the most famous of all mythological beasts, Cerberus. It was a monstrous three-headed dog with a serpent for a tail and snakes growing from his back. His job was twofold. He was to prevent any living mortal from entering the underworld without permission, and more importantly, he was to ensure that no soul who had entered could ever escape. Cerberus was a terrifying guardian, but he was loyal to his master Hades. He was not a creature of chaos, but an essential part of the kingdom's security system. The journey past Cerberus was the final step of the transition. The soul had now truly left the mortal world behind. They had been guided by a god, paid the ferryman, and passed the great guardian. They were now fully within the domain of Hades, ready to face their final judgment. This entire process was a ritualized and orderly progression, not a chaotic descent into hell. Each step was a necessary part of a system designed to maintain a sacred boundary. It underscored the Greek belief that death was not an end to be feared with terror, but a structured and inevitable journey into another state of being. After death, souls entered a great hall of judgment, where three wise judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus, decided their fate. Souls were sent to Tartarus for punishment, Elysium for reward, or Asphodel for the ordinary, ensuring every soul found its rightful place. In the vast theatre of popular culture, Hades is almost always cast as the villain. He is depicted as a malevolent schemer, consumed by jealousy for his brother Zeus and desperate to seize control of Mount Olympus. This modern portrayal, however, is a profound misreading of his ancient character. The Hades of Greek mythology was not driven by envy or ambition. He was a figure of quiet dignity, a god who understood the weight of his responsibilities and carried them out with a stern and unwavering focus. He was in many ways the most predictable and stable of all the Olympians, a stark contrast to the often volatile and emotional gods who ruled above. Unlike his brother Zeus, who was infamous for his countless infidelities and the chaos they caused, Hades was remarkably steadfast. He was one of the most faithful husbands in the entire Greek pantheon, devoted to his queen, Persephone. Similarly, while Poseidon was known for his tempestuous rages that could shake the earth, Hades ruled his domain with a calm and dispassionate hand. He rarely left the underworld, showing little to no interest in the political intrigues of Olympus or the fleeting affairs of mortals. His entire existence was dedicated to a single monumental task, governing the realm of the dead and maintaining its immutable laws. The ancient Greeks did not see Hades as an evil force. They feared him, but it was a fear born of respect for the inevitable. He was the personification of a final, unchangeable truth. All mortals must one day die and enter his kingdom. This made him a somber and intimidating figure, but not a malicious one. He did not cause death. That was the role of Thanatos. Hades was simply the receiver, the great host who presided over the final destination. His rule was based on principles of justice and order, not cruelty. He was a king, not a torturer, a warden who ensured that the cosmic balance was preserved. This portrayal of a just and dutiful monarch is far removed from the fiery-tempered, fast-talking villain we often see in films and cartoons. The true Hades was defined by his solemnity and his commitment to his role. He was a god who accepted his difficult lot without complaint and ruled his dark kingdom with an iron will. To understand him is to look past the modern caricatures and see the god the ancient Greeks saw, a powerful, respectable, and essential part of the divine order, a king whose reign was defined not by evil but by an unyielding sense of duty. Hades' power was marked by his helm of darkness, granting invisibility, his bedant symbolizing authority over the dead, and his loyal guardian Cerberus, who kept souls in the underworld. He was also known as Plauton, the giver of Earth's hidden wealth. These symbols defined his quiet, immense rule over life, death, and riches. Hades' true role was not to punish, but to maintain the boundary between life and death. He enforced the separation of the living and the dead, preventing chaos and preserving the cosmic order. Only a handful of heroes ever crossed into his realm and returned, always with divine help. Hades was impartial. Kings and paupers alike faced the same fate, judged not by him, but by the wise kings of the underworld. He was not death itself, but the force that kept the world in balance, a necessary anchor for existence. In this light, Hades emerges not as a villain, but as a vital, just, and stabilizing deity. The most famous tale of Hades is his abduction of Persephone, daughter of Demeter. Drawn by a magical flower, Persephone was seized by Hades and taken to the underworld in an instant. Her cries were heard only by Hecate and Helios. Her friends searched in vain. The act, sanctioned by Zeus, was both a crime and a divine arrangement. Persephone was claimed as Hades' queen. For Persephone, it was a sudden descent from sunlight to shadow, a traumatic and life-altering event. This story marks the beginning of her transformation and the world's changing seasons. Demeter's grief for her lost daughter plunged the world into famine. She abandoned her duties, and the earth withered. Mortals starved as winter gripped the land. Only after learning the truth from Helios did Demeter demand Persephone's return, refusing all gifts from Zeus. The survival of humanity hung in the balance as Demeter's sorrow became a global crisis. Zeus, realizing the gods' worshippers would perish, was forced to intervene and order Persephone's release. The fate of gods and mortals now depended on a mother's love and a king's command. In the underworld, Persephone grew from captive to queen, ruling beside Hades with dignity and power. When ordered to return, Hades offered her a pomegranate seed, binding her forever to his realm. Because she tasted the food of the dead, a compromise was struck. Persephone would split her time between Earth and the underworld. Her return brought spring, her descent winter, a myth explaining the seasons. Persephone became a bridge between worlds, embodying both life and death, ruling as a respected queen. Her story is one of transformation, power, and the eternal cycle of loss and renewal. The Greeks rarely spoke Hades' name, using titles like Plauton, the Rich One, to honor his power over hidden wealth. These euphemisms reflected awe, not just fear. Hades was both king of the dead and giver of earthly riches. Other names, like Clymenos and Euboleus, highlighted his fame and wisdom. Over time, his complex image faded, replaced by the modern caricature of a villain. To the ancients, his name commanded respect for the inevitable, not just dread. Remembering his true legacy means seeing Hades as a force of order, wealth, and solemn justice. Today, Hades is reborn in pop culture, often as a villain or dark romantic hero, far from the original myth. Disney's made him a scheming antagonist, while modern stories recast him as a brooding anti-hero. These versions reflect our own fascinations, not the dutiful, impartial god of Greek lore. Games like add nuance, but still project modern ideas onto an ancient figure. Hades' constant reinvention shows our enduring fascination with death, power, and justice. Through every retelling, he remains a complex, shadowed figure, forever ruling the imagination. Hades, the lord of the underworld, is not a villain, but a symbol of balance and inevitability. He rules a structured realm, not of chaos, but of order, where every soul finds its place. With Persephone, he embodies the cycle of life and death. Hades is not evil, but necessary, the inevitable king to whom all roads must lead. It's a puzzle box with no key, a whisper in a quiet room, reminding us of the world is stranger than it seems. As our journey ends and the candle's smoke fades, what magic will you carry forward? challenging us, repelling us, and forever inviting us to question the limits of our own will. The answer lies in understanding our capacity for darkness and light. And ask yourself, do you believe? Do you dare to explore the unknown, to confront the shadows that lurk in the dark corners of our world? We may stumble upon truths more unsettling than the shadows themselves. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the history of Hades. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Horton's World Mythology for more explorations into the world's most fascinating myths and legends. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What other mythical creatures or legends would you like us to explore next? Share your ideas and let's keep the flame burning bright. And as always, stay curious.